Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a little bit of a different type of watch review for you guys. You've seen Casios pop up on my channel from time to time. Me, of course, being a longtime G-Shock fan, of course, I enjoy Casios. But one thing that I really like is, of course, the retro stylings. And they're just a lot of fun, and I end up getting them and kind of picking them up and giving them to my son, giving them to my wife, and they're just these kind of cool things. I just got too much wrist, unfortunately, for most of these little more vintage style watches, but I do like to bring them to you guys because I know that there's plenty of my viewers out there who do have smaller wrists, or hey, maybe even are younger or whatever, or maybe they have big wrists like me and just want to buy a cool watch for a friend or colleague or their kid or whatever. So a little bit about Casio. Of course, they were founded back in 1974. Their first watch was the Casiotron. They're Japanese in origin, and they're really known for their wide range of digital watch offerings from lines like G-Shock, Edifice, and Oceanus. And, you know, they really cover a wide range of some really high tech, high design, high quality stuff to some really cool affordable pieces like you're seeing here in front of you, although some are a little bit more affordable than others and some are a little bit less. You know, the one I'm really focusing on is this one here in the middle, which is the Casio Vintage A700WM 7AVT. Now, of course, this is a digital watch. Some key common characteristics in design when you're looking for a digital watch, you're going to want, of course, something that isn't analog, that has a digital readout of timing information. So this model is this really cool kind of ultra thin chrome plated resin case. It's got this great stainless steel mesh bracelet with mineral glass, and you can get them for like 60 bucks on Amazon, which is pretty crazy. So with all that said, let's actually take a closer look. All right, guys, so here you have, you know, your very basic Casio. I don't even have notes for the exact nomenclature on this one, but you guys have all seen this one. You recognize it. It's a great piece. My son, this is his second one of these because he wore one to absolute death. And it lasted, and it was cheap, so buying him another one wasn't a big deal because he liked it so much. He really likes the fit, and basically the comfort, and it's light and it's easy for him to read. He's like 8 years old, my younger son. And then here is kind of his baller watch. This is like higher up there, which is because it actually has a stainless steel case. You can even see the beautiful brushing there. It has this mop kind of dial frame, you could say, and it has a steel bracelet with a cool little push button clasp. This was like a real big step for him. Like, he thought that this was really cool and fancy, and enjoys, like, you know, looking down at his wrist when he's wearing this, because it's just kind of a fun, interesting watch to look at, and you can see it's gotten plenty of wear and tear on it there. But I saw this piece and I just thought, wow, what an interesting piece. I like that it's a little bit more dressy. This one, I mean, I don't know, my son might end up with it, maybe my wife. She has actually a couple of digital Casios as well with, I think this is actually a UK spec one that I got her that had like a special kind of screen frame. But this one, I think, with this mesh looks really great. It's really, it exudes that vintage aesthetic. It's super thin. This thing is 6 millimeters thin, which is really, really nice, guys. Of course, yeah, it's a quartz digital, but still, that's a really nice thin profile. And the nice thing is that it helps really flatten this thing out. And one thing I really like with this aesthetic is with the multi-steps of brown that go kind of around the framing of the actual digital screen there. It actually almost makes it feel like it's all kind of part of a larger screen, and then this is just kind of where the time is. I mean, it's an optical illusion, but I think it's also part of the thinness, right? So I think it actually looks really cool, you know. And we'll do a little, because we love Lume, so let's do this. Boom. So that's interesting. You get the orange. We'll go over here. What do you get? Let it focus. Boom. A little blue action. Okay. And then top it off, guys. What do we get here? Ooh, bam, white, little frost action. So look, guys, there's just fun little things like that that Casio does. I think that really are quite enjoyable and really are interesting about it, and they do things differently. And this one actually has some pretty decent specs. It's 35.5 millimeters in diameter, and that actually includes the pushers. So otherwise, it's actually even smaller. But for a square watch, of course, you're not going to want a huge diameter on it because square watches are going to generally wear bigger. From lug to lug, it's actually only 37.1 millimeters, which is great for wearability. From that standpoint, it is, of course, that chrome finished resin case. But one of the nice things is that it actually has a mineral crystal. It doesn't have the resin crystal like you're going to see here. So where you can kind of flex it, and it's just basically a piece of plastic. Here, you're actually getting a mineral crystal, which is nice. Definitely adds a little bit more toughness to it, and then I think also ties in well with this really nicely done little mesh here, which is infinitely adjustable because you can kind of slide this up and down any way you want. So the lugs, of course, are similar with 18 millimeter lugs that actually flare out on the bracelet. The bracelet flares from 21, and then it comes down to 17 millimeters, and then you do have this nice kind of infinitely adjustable slide clasp there, which is really great. So let's actually get this piece on wrist. All right, guys, as you can see on my 7.25 inch wrist, it's kind of small, but since it's square and it's flat and it has these kind of like very high polished facets to it in the finishing. Actually, let me give it a quick wipe because I didn't wear gloves, because let's face it, guys, I really wasn't too worried about fingerprints on a chrome resin case, but I do want to present it in a nice light for you guys. So as you can see, it actually covers the wrist quite well, and it's super flat. Look at that. Look at that. That is a thin, flat watch. So if you're somebody that wants something that's infinitely like ready to slide under a cuff, this is a really nice option. And you can see the thinness there. I love kind of the play of light over the screen, how it feels like, again, it's multi-stepped, and kind of this big flat plane that makes it feel like one larger thing. It wears very, very similarly to this, I believe it is the A700WM 7AVT. It wears very similar, as you'll be able to see here. Not much of a difference. This is a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker. You can see the thickness there. So much different in that case profile. So it's going to wear very similar. Here, this is actually sized down to my very young son's wrist, so won't be able to really get it around my wrist, but you can see also quite thin. Actually, a nice comparable would be here. You can see the steel case is actually very similar to the thickness of the resin case. So, and these are classics. So wherever you guys can find them, this one is actually, I believe, UK only. Another one of those UK only kind of Casio vintage ones. And then this one is just readily available everywhere, Amazon. These are fun watches, very retro, obviously take you back to your childhood. And then this guy, this new one, I'm digging this. I think it is a very cool look, has that retro chic vibe, and it's just, it offers a lot. I think, you know, obviously up close, it's going to help the proportions a little bit because of the lens distortion, so it's going to not look quite as small on my wrist. I'm sure some of you see this right here and you're like, man, it looks tiny. But, you know, it could be worse. And because it's so flat, it really spreads itself. I mean, it's like butter. As much as this thing wears thin, you can see that bracelet, the way that mesh wraps, it just keeps flowing into the case and through the case. So really nice from that standpoint. Let's actually get this off wrist and get some final thoughts going. All right, guys, I wasn't going to do a Lume or low light transition because it's just a button to press, but you know what? Why not? Now I have to find it in the dark. Oh no! Will I press the right button? Won't I? I don't know. Will the camera even be focused? Absolutely not. Actually, hey, there it goes. So you can see great lume from that standpoint. The nice bright orange there. So let me get the low light transition. Actually, let me do this. I'm gonna put this here, let the thing focus, and I'm gonna give you guys a little bonus lume. Let's see this guy here, your classic blue. Boom, very nice. That's like the cheapest one. These are like 15, 20 bucks. Then this one is like, if you can find them, I think they're closer to like 100, maybe in some change there. So let's get this nice white light. If I can find the pusher in the dark. Boom, very cool. And then here you go with the little orange action. So that's kind of cool, different. All right, but you know what? I figured let me throw in some low light transition here. Obviously, it's going to be tough to read the legibility when there's not light on it if you're not pressing the button. But the nice thing you can do here is kind of take a look at the brushing on the ends of the bracelet is actually pretty nicely done, and I think the details on the case actually are pretty clean, you know, for what they are. A little chrome plated resin action. I think there are some nice kind of bevels within that shape, that molded shape there, that catch the light in a fun, interesting way. Of course, this thing has a little bit of sweat on it, a little bit of murkiness. Sorry about that, guys. But let's go ahead and actually get into the closing thoughts on these guys, and this one in particular, which I really think is a fun option, especially if you have a smaller wrist. Of course, the wear, it's if you've worn any of these, you know, Casio vintage watches, then you're gonna enjoy this one. It wears very similar, and it's quite chic, and I think it just has a really nice kind of dressed up aesthetic without it being like over the top. It's not gaudy. I think it's something that can really be played well in very, you know, versatile situations. This is just kind of a fun, dressy, but kind of geeky, watch geek type watch, which for me as a watch geek, obviously I kind of enjoy that. I think that's fun. For me, the bottom line here is it's just a more refined take on your basic Casio vintage model. This thing, it's refined in ways when it comes to the color palette, when it comes to how thin it wears, even the execution, of course, and the way that it wears with the clasp and everything. So it's just, and it's not that much more. It's like a $60 watch. So is it worth 3 of the cheap ones? Yeah, I think it is. Especially when you just think about the bracelet alone. So if you can dig the aesthetic, I think you'll really enjoy this one, and obviously if you don't have a big old meaty wrist like I do, you'll be able to get some nice wear out of it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked the video, please do a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys. Actually, you know what? One more. I can't help it. Orange. What? It's fun. I don't know. Why do they choose orange? Orange and gray, I guess they kind of go well together. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. All right, guys. See ya.